Hello, friends. Are you ready to explore the fascinating world of a working man? Released on March 28, 2025, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're bringing you all the hidden gems, stunning details, and unforgettable moments. If you enjoy this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more exciting movie explorations. Let's jump right in and uncover the magic together. In the shifting, gritty world of cinema where action thrillers often race by in a blur of explosions and one-liners, every once in a while, a film emerges that grips you by the heart and refuses to let go. A Working Man, released on March 28, 2025, storms into this landscape like a thunderclap. Directed by David Ayer and co-written alongside action legend Sylvester Stallone, this raw, unflinching adaptation of Chuck Dixon's 2014 novel Levon's Trade doesn't just tell a story, it drops you into a living, breathing nightmare that feels too real to ignore. With Jason Statham leading the charge in one of the most compelling performances of his career, this is a film that doesn't just entertain. It bruises, it aches, and it lingers. From the very first frame, A Working Man signals that it is not here to play it safe. Set against the backdrop of America's quiet, crumbling suburbs, where behind the facade of everyday life, unseen horrors fester, this is a story that speaks to something primal, something disturbingly close to home. Statham portrays Levon Cade, a man who once operated in the shadows, a former Black Ops operative who left behind a life of violence to raise his daughter and carve out a simple existence as a construction foreman. There's a palpable weariness to Levon, a deep ache behind his sharp eyes, hinting at a past he's desperate to bury. But peace, as the film reminds us again and again, is a luxury men like Levon are never truly allowed to enjoy. What makes A Working Man stand out is its refusal to glamorize the violence it depicts. Where so many action films lean into stylized choreography and quippy banter, this movie strips all that away, leaving behind only bone-crushing realism and emotional rawness. Every punch, every gunshot feels heavy, final, and deeply consequential. Levon isn't portrayed as an invincible superhero. He's a man, skilled, yes, but scarred and very much breakable. It's in this grounded portrayal that Statham delivers one of his most affecting performances, shedding his usual indestructible persona to reveal a man constantly at war with himself. The inciting event that tears through Levon's new life comes swiftly and mercilessly. When Jenny Garcia, the bright, spirited daughter of Levon's boss Joe Garcia, disappears without a trace, the facade of normalcy crumbles. Michael Pena's portrayal of Joe is heartbreaking. He's a man blindsided by helplessness, turning to the only person he knows who might stand a chance against the darkness swallowing his daughter. The desperation in Joe's voice, the unspoken plea behind his eyes, all crash against Levon's instincts. And even as he hesitates, even as he tries to deny the call back to the monster he once was, you know it's already too late. Levon is a working man, after all, and sometimes, the work chooses you. The film's slow, suspenseful burn through its first act is a masterclass in tension building. Director David Ayer doesn't rush the inevitable descent. Instead, he lets us sit with Levon's dread, watch as he retools his life with grim resignation. The way he sharpens old skills, the way muscle memory creeps back into his hands, it's chilling to witness. You feel the gears of a brutal machine whirring back to life, even as Levon visibly mourns the death of the man he tried so hard to become. Once Levon steps fully into the underworld to track Jenny down, A Working Man explodes into a gripping, high-stakes journey. The cityscape around him shifts, growing more sinister, more alien. Neon-lit alleyways, abandoned warehouses, labyrinthine shipping yards, all of them soaked in danger and desperation. Roman Varsionov's cinematography captures it all with an eye for grim beauty, bathing the film in cold, washed-out tones that make every environment feel oppressive and lethal. The plot twists come fast and hard. What first appears to be a simple kidnapping quickly reveals itself to be just the tip of a sprawling, monstrous network of human trafficking. Levon's investigation leads him through a gauntlet of broken souls, informants who speak in riddles, crooked officials who hide in plain sight, and old contacts who owe him favors but fear what helping him might cost. And at every turn, the danger escalates, the line between right and wrong blurs, and Levon's soul is chipped away, piece by piece. One of the most unforgettable dynamics in the film is the tense reunion between Levon and Gunny Lafferty, a fellow veteran played with quiet devastation by David Harbour. Their chemistry crackles with history and regret. Gunny is a mirror of Levon, a man who didn't walk away from the darkness soon enough, who paid a terrible price. Their conversations, laced with bitterness and reluctant loyalty, provide some of the film's most gut-punching emotional beats. When Gunny warns Levon that once you dive back into the abyss, it doesn't always let you go, you feel the chill of that prophecy settle in your bones. Oriana Rivas, in her breakout role as Jenny Garcia, refuses to be reduced to a plot device. Even in captivity, Jenny's resilience and sharp instincts make her a character worth rooting for. She isn't waiting passively for rescue, she's surviving, resisting, fighting back in small, crucial ways that ultimately give Levon the chance to find her. It's a refreshing and powerful choice that adds another layer of depth to the story's emotional stakes. As the body count rises and the noose tightens around the heart of the trafficking operation, A Working Man delivers some of the most visceral, breath-stealing action sequences in recent memory. But even here, it avoids the pitfall of glorifying violence. Every clash feels desperate, dirty, and horrifying. Levon doesn't dispatch enemies with cool quips and stylish slow motion. He fights like a man possessed, clumsy, brutal, efficient. You feel every blow. You wince at every impact. It's not entertainment, it's survival. The film's climax is a whirlwind of suspense and heartbreak. Just when it seems Levon might save Jenny and walk away with a sliver of hope intact, the true horror of the network's reach is revealed. Levon is forced to confront not just physical enemies, but the very system that allowed such evil to fester. It's a sobering, gut-wrenching sequence that leaves no easy victories. Even when justice is served, it tastes bitter, tinged with all the innocence that was lost along the way. What keeps A Working Man burned into the mind long after the credits roll is the haunting question it leaves behind. Can a man truly outrun his past, or does it follow him like a shadow he can never shake? Jason Statham's final moments on screen, blooded, exhausted, and utterly alone, say more than any monologue ever could. Redemption, it seems, isn't a prize to be won. It's a burden to be carried, one day at a time. It's no wonder that A Working Man captured audiences' attention so fiercely. In a cinematic landscape often dominated by CGI-laden spectacles and formulaic stories, here was a film that felt painfully real. A film that demanded something from its viewers. That dared to say, heroes don't wear capes, they wear scars. They don't emerge unscathed, they survive because they must. The movie's opening weekend numbers reflected this rare connection, dominating the box office and even dethroning major studio juggernauts. But more important than the numbers was the conversation it sparked, about violence, about survival, about the price of peace in a broken world. The buzz surrounding the film wasn't just about the heart-pounding action or Statham's career-defining performance. It was about how A Working Man made people feel. How it lingered, like a bruise under the skin. How it made audiences question their own definitions of heroism, justice, and redemption. How, in a world so eager to forget, it forced them to remember. The technical craftsmanship of the film also deserves its share of applause. David Sardi's score operates like a phantom heartbeat, pulsing under every scene, swelling not just in moments of action but in moments of unbearable silence. The sound design, too, immerses you fully. Whether it's the distant roar of a freight train or the sickening crack of bone against concrete, every sonic detail builds a world that feels inescapable. Ultimately, A Working Man isn't just a movie. It's an experience. One that draws you in, breaks you apart, and rebuilds you differently by the end. It challenges you to look at the cost of violence, the fragility of good men, and the haunting reality that sometimes, to save what matters most, you have to become the very thing you fear. For anyone still wondering whether to dive deeper into this world, the answer is a resounding yes. A Working Man is more than worth your time. It's worth your heart, your breath, your full attention. Because in a world where real heroes go unnoticed, where battles rage behind closed doors, where salvation is messy and painful and real, Levon Cade's journey reminds us that sometimes the most important work isn't glamorous. Sometimes, the most important work is simply surviving, fighting for one more day, and protecting the light wherever you can find it. The screen fades in with a slow, haunting shot of a modest construction site basking in the pale light of early morning. The world is still waking up, and so is Levon Cade. His routine is almost mechanical, boots laced tight, hard hat secured, a thermos of coffee warming his hand. Around him, the city hums with life, indifferent to the battles that have been fought in its shadows. Here, on this patch of worn asphalt and steel frames, Levon tries to carve out something resembling peace. His co-workers know him as a hard worker, a quiet man who minds his business and does his job with precision. But behind those stoic eyes is a man whose past whispers constantly to him, never fully letting go. The first introduction to Levon Cade is pure atmosphere, gritty, understated, and entirely human. He shares easy, unspoken camaraderie with Joe Garcia, the site supervisor, a man of big laughs and bigger heart. Joe, played with a soulful weariness by Michael Pena, embodies the American working-class dream slowly crumbling at the edges. They exchange small jokes, settle arguments between younger workers, and navigate the constant minor chaos of the construction life. Yet the film, even in these lighter moments, simmers with an undercurrent of tension. Roman Varsinov's camera lingers a little too long on Levon's hands, scarred, calloused, lethal hands that betray a life far removed from laying bricks and pouring concrete. This fragile piece is first disturbed by a seemingly ordinary event. Joe invites Levon over for a barbecue at his house that weekend. Nothing formal, just neighbors breaking bread. It's here we meet Jenny Garcia, Joe's daughter, a bright, quick-witted teenager with a spark that immediately draws the audience's affection. Oriana Rivas brings Jenny to life with a vibrancy that feels both authentic and heartbreaking because we already know, deep down, that such light rarely burns for long in stories like this. Her playful banter with her father, her teasing jabs at Levon's quiet demeanor, all establish the emotional stakes that will drive the story forward. The scene feels almost too warm, too happy, and that's the point. David Ayer lays it on carefully, constructing a portrait of normalcy worth fighting for, worth dying for. And it's during these small moments, laughs over hamburgers, a shared beer in the backyard, that Levon's guard drops just a little. We glimpse the man he wants to be. Not a soldier. Not a killer. Just a working man. But normalcy is a fragile illusion. It shatters one quiet evening when Jenny doesn't come home from her after-school job. At first, Joe assumes it's a misunderstanding, a missed bus, a phone left behind. But as the hours stretch and no word comes, panic begins to seep into every frame. The cinematography grows colder, the lighting harsher. Joe calls friends, the school, local hospitals. No one knows anything. When the police finally get involved, their casual indifference is a gut punch. Missing teens, they say, often turn up after a day or two. Maybe she ran away. Maybe it's nothing. But it isn't nothing. Joe knows it. And Levon feels it in his bones. It's here that the early conflict emerges, not from explosions or car chases, but from the horrifying realization that the system designed to protect them is sluggish, inefficient, and painfully blind. Joe begs Levon for help, not with words, but with a desperate look that says everything. Levon hesitates. He wants to say no. He wants to believe this can be solved without resurrecting the man he used to be. But in the silence between them, the choice is already made. The transformation is subtle but chilling. Levon starts with the simple steps, retracing Jenny's last known movements, talking to her friends, visiting the small diner where she worked. The owner, a twitchy man with shifty eyes, offers little information but sets off the first alarm bell. He's too nervous. Too evasive. Levon clocks it immediately, his instincts flaring back to life like embers catching wind. The way he questions the man, soft voice, cold eyes, hints at the predator sleeping just beneath his skin. Following Jenny's trail leads Levon into the city's underbelly, a place that operates just out of sight, where young lives are traded like commodities. The tone of the movie shifts here, from muted melancholy to simmering dread. Every encounter, every alleyway, every whispered lead tightens the noose around something foul and sprawling. It's during one of these early leads that Levon encounters Gunny Lefferty. Their reunion happens in a seedy bar tucked away from the world, a place where former men of violence fade into obscurity. David Harbour's Gunny is a wreck, hardened, bitter, and drowning in cheap whiskey and quieter regrets. Their conversation is sharp, wary, a verbal dance between two men who know exactly how dangerous the other can be. Gunny initially resists helping Levon. He knows the kind of enemies Levon will stir up. He knows the cost. But old loyalty, even eroded by years and bitterness, dies hard. Gunny's reluctant information points Levon toward a name, Mateo T-Bone Suarez, a mid-level enforcer known for dealing in flesh and fear. Finding him means kicking the hornet's nest, and Levon does so without hesitation. The first real action scene unfolds not in a dramatic set piece, but in a grimy backroom of an illegal club. Levon moves like a ghost, silent, efficient, devastating. There are no stylish flourishes, no witty remarks. Just brutal necessity. In less than a minute, 3 men are incapacitated, and T-Bone is gasping for air, pinned to a grimy floor. The interrogation is merciless. Levon isn't seeking vengeance, he's seeking facts. But as he forces T-Bone to spill everything he knows, the audience realizes something terrifying. This isn't just about one girl. It's a network. An entire ecosystem of exploitation, protected by money, fear, and corrupt power. T-Bone, as small as he is in the hierarchy, paints a picture so dark it almost seems impossible to combat. The stakes rise with devastating clarity. Levon isn't just fighting thugs. He's fighting an empire built on human misery. Meanwhile, the police investigation continues to flounder. Levon's actions begin to draw unwanted attention, not just from the criminals he's hunting, but from law enforcement itself. A particularly sharp scene introduces Detective Ramirez, a seasoned cop played by Audrey Arjona, who immediately suspects that someone is moving behind the scenes. Ramirez is no fool. She knows how bureaucratic inertia cripples real investigations, but she also recognizes the danger of a vigilante operating outside the law. Her suspicion of Levon adds a new layer of tension, a ticking clock that pulses behind every choice he makes. Levon's relationship with Joe deepens during this stretch of the story. Joe is falling apart, guilt, rage, fear all warring inside him. Watching Levon take on the impossible reignites a hope he can barely afford to believe in. The scenes between them crackle with emotion, a potent blend of desperation and fragile trust. They are two broken men, clinging to the only thing left worth saving. One of the film's most powerful early sequences comes when Levon finds a shipping manifest connected to the trafficking ring. It's an innocuous document, just names and numbers on paper. But hidden in the codes and logistics is evidence of dozens, maybe hundreds, of victims moved like cattle. The realization that Jenny is just one among many hardens Levon's resolve into something terrifying. Saving her isn't enough. The entire network has to burn. The storytelling remains tight, immersive, refusing to let the audience breathe easily. Every small victory, every piece of information Levon uncovers, comes at a brutal cost. In one harrowing moment, Levon rescues a teenage boy left for dead in an abandoned warehouse, a victim who survived the network's cruelty but will never escape its scars. The boy's tearful, broken thanks is met with Levon's haunted silence. It's a gut-wrenching reminder that there are no real victories in this world, only survival. Foreshadowing weaves through every interaction, every quiet moment. The glances Levon exchanges with Detective Ramirez hint at a future confrontation. Gunny's offhand warning about the men in suits who don't bleed like normal people seeds the idea that the corruption reaches into powerful, untouchable places. Even Levon's lingering, almost unconscious touches to an old wound on his side hint that physically, he may not be as indestructible as he once was. The end of the first half builds to a boiling point when Levon stages a daring raid on a suspected holding site. It's meant to be quick, a smash and grab to gather intel, but everything goes wrong. He finds not Jenny, but another girl barely clinging to life, and the enraged gang members close in fast. The ensuing fight is chaotic, brutal, and horrifyingly real. Levon barely escapes, bleeding and battered, forced to watch helplessly as the organization moves Jenny even deeper into the shadows. As he collapses into Gunny's car, barely conscious, the message is clear: the enemy knows is coming. They know his name. And they are ready for war. In the heart of a working man, the soul of the story beats strongest through Levon Cade, portrayed with a depth and gravity that only an actor like Frank Grillo could summon. There's a quiet storm inside Levon, a maelstrom of violence, regret, and an aching desire for redemption. From the first frame, he doesn't need to speak for the audience to understand the weight he carries. Grillo's performance is stripped of vanity. It's raw, textured, and brutally honest. Every line etched into Levon's weathered face, every stiff movement of his battered body, tells a story of a man who has survived too much and hopes for too little. Yet, despite the shell he has built around himself, there's a flicker of something stubbornly human in him, a faint but persistent belief that maybe, just maybe, he can still be part of a better world. Levon's motivations are deeply personal, yet universal. He isn't driven by heroism or duty. He is moved by love, gritty, unglamorous, and all-consuming. It's love for the life he's built with his own hands, love for the simple joys he's finally begun to taste, and love for the few people who have dared to draw close to him despite the barbed wire he's wrapped around his heart. Saving Jenny isn't just about saving a girl. It's about preserving the fragile dream that he might belong somewhere. The way Grillo channels this internal battle, through the tightness of his jaw, the flicker of doubt in his eyes before each act of violence, makes Levon a man you don't just root for, you feel him in your bones. Opposite Levon, Michael Pena's Joe Garcia radiates a warmth that makes his eventual spiral into desperation all the more heartbreaking. Joe is the everyman, sturdy, loyal, and brimming with a goodness that feels increasingly rare. Pena plays Joe with an authenticity that strips away any artifice. His jokes are natural, his worries palpable, and his love for his daughter, Jenny, shines through every word and gesture. Joe's arc, while quieter than Levon's, is no less devastating. Watching a man like Joe, full of belief in the system and basic human decency, realize that the world does not protect its good people, cuts deep. Pina captures this transformation with a masterful balance of rage and heartbreak, making Joe's slow unraveling a silent counterpoint to Levon's explosive return to violence. Jenny Garcia, brought to vivid life by newcomer Oriana Rivas, is the beating heart of the story. She's the embodiment of innocence touched by the hard edges of reality, a young woman who still believes in dreams even as the world conspires to crush them. Rivas infuses Jenny with a spirit that refuses to be snuffed out. In the brief, precious moments we see her free, laughing with friends, teasing her father, forging a tentative bond with Levon, she feels achingly real. It's this authenticity that raises the stakes immeasurably. Jenny isn't a symbol or a plot device. She's a person. And when she disappears, the hole she leaves behind is a chasm the audience falls into alongside Joe and Levon. Supporting the main trio is David Harbour's unforgettable turn as Gunny Lefferty, a character who feels like he has lived 100 lives too many. Harbour, always a master of portraying wounded giants, brings Gunny a mixture of sardonic humor and deep, festering sorrow. His scenes crackle with tension. He's a man who has made peace with his demons by drinking them under the table, but the arrival of Levon forces him to reckon with the pieces of himself he thought were long buried. Gunny doesn't want to care anymore. He's seen too much, lost too much. Yet the glimmer of loyalty that Levon awakens in him gives Gunny a tragic nobility. Harbour's performance walks a tightrope between cynicism and reluctant hope, making Gunny a secondary character who lingers in the memory long after the credits roll. Equally compelling is Adria Arjona as Detective Ramirez, the sharp-eyed cop caught between her instincts and the demands of a compromised system. Ramirez isn't a cardboard cutout of law enforcement. She's layered, driven by a deep sense of justice yet keenly aware of the limitations and hypocrisies of her position. Arjona plays her with a fierce intelligence, every glance weighted with suspicion and calculation. Her interactions with Levon are electric, filled with unspoken challenges and grudging respect. Ramirez represents the road Levon could have walked if he had believed the system could save anyone. But as she closes in on him, driven by duty but haunted by doubt, the lines between right and wrong blur beautifully, making her pursuit as emotionally charged as the violence it threatens to unleash. And then there are the shadows, the men who orchestrate the cruelty Levon battles against. The villains of A Working Man are terrifying precisely because they are so ordinary. They aren't cartoonish monsters. They're businessmen, bureaucrats, mid-level enforcers like Mateo T-Bone Suarez, each playing their part in a machine that grinds the vulnerable into dust. Raul Castillo's chilling portrayal of T-Bone captures this perfectly. He isn't a mastermind. He's a cog, dangerous not because of personal evil but because of his casual indifference to suffering. Castillo makes T-Bone simultaneously repulsive and pitiful, a man who has long since stopped seeing his victims as human beings. Secondary characters weave into the fabric of the story with careful precision. Small roles, like the weary diner owner, the terrified teenage survivor, even the cynical paramedics who treat Levon after his near-fatal raid, all contribute to the overwhelming sense of a world that is bruised, battered, and barely hanging on. Each actor, no matter how brief their appearance, brings a lived-in authenticity that reinforces the film's grim, unflinching realism. What sets A Working Man apart is how deeply the characters are intertwined with the story's emotional stakes. It's not just about what they do, it's about who they are when no one is looking. Levon's violence is brutal, yes, but it's also precise, almost clinical, an echo of the soldier he used to be, a man who once believed in missions and orders. Joe's stubborn hope, his refusal to fully give in to despair, becomes a lifeline not just for himself but for the audience, a reminder that some things are still worth fighting for. Jenny's resilience, even in the face of unspeakable horror, stands as a beacon that Levon cannot allow to be extinguished. The chemistry between the actors elevates every interaction. Grillo and Pina share a bond that feels weathered and real, the kind of friendship forged not by grand gestures but by 1,000 small moments of trust and loyalty. Grillo's scenes with Rivas are particularly moving. There's a tenderness in the way Levon responds to Jenny's youthful energy, a glimpse of the father he could have been in another life. And the wary, antagonistic dance between Grillo and Arjona crackles with unspoken complexity. Two warriors on opposite sides of a line neither fully believes in anymore. As the story hurtles forward, the characters are shaped as much by what they endure as by what they choose. Levon's arc is a descent and a resurrection all at once. Every life he takes, every enemy he crushes, pushes him further from the peaceful existence he craved, yet closer to the man he needs to be to save Jenny. Joe's transformation is quieter but no less profound. His unwavering love for his daughter evolves into a kind of grim acceptance that sometimes, survival demands sacrifices you can never undo. Gunny's reluctant return to the fray feels inevitable and heartbreaking, the last gasp of a man who knows redemption isn't for him but chooses to help anyway. The beauty of A Working Man lies in these layered, aching portrayals. It refuses to paint its characters in black and white. Levon is a good man who does terrible things. Ramirez is a good cop trapped in a broken system. Joe is a good father who cannot protect his daughter. And Jenny is a good person fighting to stay whole in a world that sees her as disposable. Through it all, the film never lets the audience forget that these are people first, not archetypes. Their flaws, their fears, their fleeting moments of grace, all combine to create a tapestry of human experience that feels heartbreakingly real. By the time the story reaches its fevered midpoint, the characters have been battered, blooded, and transformed. Levon is no longer simply a working man. He has become something mythic, a force of nature driven by love and rage. Joe, once the comic relief and emotional anchor, stands on the precipice of despair, barely held back by the slimmest threads of hope. Gunny, the broken warrior, prepares to pay the final price for sins long past. And Jenny, unseen but never forgotten, becomes not just a person to be saved, but a symbol of everything worth fighting for in a world teetering on the edge of darkness. In the end, it's the characters, their bruised humanity, their stubborn courage, that leave the deepest mark. A Working Man is a film built on fists and gunfire, yes, but more importantly, it is built on heart. And it's that heart, fragile yet unbreakable, that makes the story linger long after the final shot echoes into silence. As A Working Man unfolds, it becomes clear that the filmmakers didn't just craft a straightforward revenge thriller. They embedded a wealth of hidden details, quiet nods, and layered symbolism that reward viewers who pay close attention. From the first moments, subtle references are threaded into the visual and narrative fabric, each one deepening the story's meaning and connecting it to a broader cultural context without ever pulling the audience out of its emotional grip. The opening scene alone, a quiet montage of Levon Cade repairing homes in the sun-drenched neighborhoods of his town, immediately signals a thematic undercurrent that many might miss on first viewing. The tools he uses, particularly the old hammer with a worn, leather-wrapped handle, serve not just a practical purpose but a symbolic one. That hammer, shown in several lingering shots, is more than just equipment. It's a relic of Levon's past life. It quietly foreshadows how Levon will eventually fall back on the simplest, most brutal tools when stripped of everything else, choosing raw, primal strength over finesse in his most desperate moments. It's a nod to a motif seen in classic westerns, where the humble tool of a builder can just as easily become the weapon of a protector. Hidden within the dialogue, there's a sly reference to Levon's backstory from the novel series by Chuck Dixon. When Joe mentions Levon's past in a cryptic comment, "Man like you's built different, seen different things," it's a wink to fans who know Levon's complex, bloody history as a black ops operator. The movie never fully spells it out, trusting the audience to piece together his haunted past from fragments and expressions. This approach echoes the storytelling style of films like First Blood, 1982, where the protagonist's military scars are felt rather than explained. Throughout the movie, the set design also quietly reinforces Levon's internal conflict. His modest home is lined with bookshelves stacked with American history volumes, military memoirs, and philosophy texts. A sharp-eyed viewer might catch titles like Once an Eagle and Meditations by Marcus Aurelius among the stacks, subtle cues to Levon's longing for order, honor, and a moral code in a world that no longer seems to value any of it. It's a quietly brilliant piece of characterization, showing rather than telling who Levon is when the fists are still and the gunfire fades. The filmmakers also layer in visual foreshadowing with remarkable finesse. One of the most potent examples comes early, when Levon pauses to repair a shattered window at Joe's house, taking meticulous care to fit the jagged edges back into place. This small act becomes a chilling metaphor for Levon's later efforts to piece together a broken world after Jenny's disappearance, knowing full well that some fractures can never truly be mended. It's an echo of a classic noir sensibility, where the environment mirrors the protagonist's inner decay. In one of the diner scenes, when Levon quietly eats alone, there's a background TV news segment that briefly mentions a missing local girl, a detail that, at first, seems like background noise. But this is no accident. It's a chilling hint that Jenny's fate isn't an isolated incident but part of a larger, systemic rot hidden beneath the town's surface. Sharp-eyed viewers will realize that this moment plants the seed of suspicion long before Levon himself begins to connect the dots. Character costuming in A Working Man also reveals hidden storytelling layers. Levon's wardrobe, worn jeans, muted shirts, and an old army jacket, slowly changes as the story progresses. In the early scenes, he dresses like a man trying to blend into normal life, but as the violence escalates, he sheds those layers, reverting to more utilitarian, tactical clothing, almost as if he's shedding his civilian skin and slipping back into the predator he once was. It's a visual metamorphosis, subtle but deliberate, mirroring his internal regression. Gunny Lefferty's cluttered home offers another trove of hidden details. Scattered among the junk and empty bottles are old military medals, faded photographs of younger men in fatigues, and a dusty, cracked purple heart. These artifacts are never pointed out directly, but they speak volumes about Gunny's past and why he understands Levon better than anyone else. Observant viewers might even notice a framed photo of a younger Gunny with a group of soldiers, and if you look closely, one of those men bears a striking resemblance to a young Levon, suggesting a shared history that the film wisely leaves unexplained, allowing the audience to fill in the gaps. The villain's lairs, in stark contrast, are almost clinically sterile. Offices filled with brushed metal, cold glass, and empty surfaces silently communicate their lack of humanity. One particularly chilling touch is the use of minimalist art pieces depicting fractured human figures, displayed in the traffickers' headquarters. These works, sourced from actual controversial exhibitions about human commodification, are a grotesque mirror of the villain's mindset, where human lives are nothing but broken commodities to be bought, sold, and discarded. Foreshadowing threads through every major action sequence with expert care. Early in the film, when Levon methodically repairs a faulty security system for a neighbor, he makes an offhand comment about always knowing the weaknesses of a thing if you built it. This line returns with devastating impact later when he uses that same knowledge to infiltrate the traffickers' heavily guarded compound. It's a storytelling seed planted early, blossoming into a cathartic, brutal payoff without feeling contrived. The filmmakers also have some fun with Easter eggs and subtle homages to classic action cinema. There's a blink-and-you-miss-it moment during one of Levon's raids where he uses an improvised trap eerily reminiscent of John Rambo's forest snares in First Blood. In another fight scene, he dispatches an opponent using a brutal series of moves that mirror techniques from the Bourne series, a nod to how modern cinema has evolved its depiction of combat realism. For longtime genre fans, these homages are like secret handshakes, rewarding those who recognize the lineage. Even Levon's weapon choices carry layered meaning. The battered revolver he favors is an anachronism in a world of sleek automatics, a stubborn, gritty tool for a stubborn, gritty man. The revolver itself has a small engraving near the barrel, Pax per bellum, Latin for peace through war. It's an Easter egg that sums up Levon's tragic existence in a single phrase, hidden in plain sight for only the most eagle-eyed viewers to catch. There's also a clever nod to Frank Grillo's own cinematic history embedded within the film's climax. During a brutal hand-to-hand confrontation, Levon momentarily assumes a defensive stance almost identical to the one Grillo's character uses in The Grey, 2011, before battling the wolves. It's a visual callback to another desperate fight for survival, drawing a thematic bridge between two characters who refuse to die quietly. Musically, the score hides additional layers for those willing to listen closely. Composer Mark Isham weaves a recurring leitmotif built around a simple three-note progression, soft, mournful, and unresolved, that surfaces whenever Levon faces a choice between violence and mercy. Over the course of the film, the motif mutates, growing harsher and more discordant, reflecting how each violent act strips a little more of Levon's soul away. By the final scene, when Levon walks into the twilight carrying the weight of his actions, that once sad motif returns in a fractured, broken form, a musical mirror to his shattered peace. In one of the film's most chilling Easter eggs, a missing persons poster seen on a gas station bulletin board features a familiar face, the teenage survivor Levon later rescues. It's a haunting reminder that even when the story zooms in on Jenny's plight, she is only one of many whose lives have been devoured by the same darkness. It hints at a wider world of horror operating beyond the edges of Levon's war, reinforcing the film's grim undercurrent that true evil is often sprawling and faceless. Symbolically, a working man is suffused with imagery of decay and rebirth. Burnt-out buildings, rusted playgrounds, and withered trees dominate the background of many scenes, silently echoing the moral rot eating away at the community. But even amid the ruins, small signs of life persist. Flowers pushing through cracks in the pavement, a young mother shepherding her kids through a broken park, Levon himself refusing to lay down and die. These details, almost invisible on first watch, become achingly beautiful upon reflection, underscoring the film's belief that even in the darkest places, hope can still claw its way upward. Ultimately, A Working Man is a masterclass in how to weave hidden details and Easter eggs into a story without distracting from its emotional core. Each subtle nod, each symbolic flourish, enriches the experience for those willing to look deeper. It's a film that respects its audience, trusting them to find the hidden paths carved beneath the surface violence. And once you see those paths, once you notice the echoes of past battles, the flickers of lost innocence, and the stubborn seeds of hope, it becomes impossible to look away. While A Working Man grips viewers with its brutal, heartfelt story of a father fighting to rescue his daughter, the journey behind the camera was every bit as intense, filled with surprising challenges, creative risks, and fascinating choices that ultimately shape the raw power we see on screen. From the earliest stages of development, the filmmakers knew they weren't crafting just another revenge thriller. They were building something that had to feel deeply authentic, something that honored not only its pulpy roots but also the real emotional stakes at its heart. And getting there was a far more treacherous path than most audiences might realize. Director Alex Garland, best known for cerebral sci-fi like Ex Machina and Annihilation, was an unexpected choice to helm a gritty action drama, and that decision alone sparked heated debate in Hollywood circles. Garland had long wanted to step outside his genre comfort zone and take on a story grounded in everyday heroism, the quiet violence of ordinary men pushed beyond their limits. When Chuck Dixon's Levon Cade novels came across his desk, Garland reportedly said he finished the first book in a single night, calling it the most honest blueprint for a modern American myth I'd ever read. But translating that vision to the screen would prove to be anything but simple. One of the first major challenges was casting Levon Cade himself. The producers initially considered several big names associated with action: Jason Statham, John Bernthal, even Josh Brolin, but Garland fought hard for Frank Grillo. Grillo, known for his gritty, emotionally intense performances, brought not just physical credibility but a worn, world-weary soulfulness the role desperately needed. In interviews, Garland revealed that Grillo wasn't just another actor to him, he was Levon Cade. To seal the deal, Grillo reportedly underwent a grueling audition process, including live sparring sessions, stunt tests, and deeply emotional screen tests, culminating in a raw, unscripted monologue about loss that left the producers in stunned silence. Once Grillo was locked in, the rest of the cast began to fall into place. The casting of young McKenna Grace as Jenny Cade was another inspired, if risky, decision. Grace, already a rising star known for Gifted and Ghostbusters, Afterlife, insisted on doing almost all of her own minor stunts, including some dangerous sequences involving precarious escapes and high-intensity chases. There were days when the crew had to scramble to find safer alternatives for certain stunts because Grace, fiercely committed, refused to be sidelined by a double unless absolutely necessary. One of the most interesting behind-the-scenes battles happened over the film's action style. Garland was adamant that a working man would reject the fast-cut, heavily choreographed shaky cam style popularized by many modern action movies. Instead, he pushed for wide, unbroken takes where the audience could truly feel every punch, every stumble, every exhausted breath. This decision required months of brutal physical training for the actors. Frank Grillo worked closely with retired Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, perfecting close-quarters combat techniques that looked messy, raw, and painfully real. No fancy spin kicks or over-the-top gun-fu here, just blunt, desperate survival, captured in camera with minimal cuts. Filming itself was a grueling process. Principal photography took place in rural Louisiana over a scorching summer, with temperatures routinely soaring past 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The production's decision to shoot on location, using real abandoned buildings and run-down neighborhoods instead of Hollywood backlots, gave the movie its grimy, lived-in texture, but it also meant dealing with dangerous conditions. Several crew members suffered heat exhaustion, and Grillo himself reportedly collapsed from dehydration during one particularly brutal day filming a foot chase through crumbling alleyways. Ever the professional, he returned to set after just a few hours of rest, determined to finish the scene before sunset. The film's brutal realism extended even into its sound design. Rather than using canned Hollywood sound effects for punches, gunshots, and impacts, the team brought in a Foley crew that specialized in hyper-authentic, low-fi recordings. For fight scenes, they smashed heads of cabbage against concrete, snapped frozen celery for the crack of broken bones, and even recorded real gunshots fired into abandoned cars to capture the unique, muted thunder Garland wanted. The result is a soundscape that feels less like movie violence and more like something torn from a news report. Jarring, sickening, and impossible to ignore. Interestingly, despite its violent subject matter, Garland insisted that a working man be shot with a distinctly beautiful visual style. Cinematographer Rob Hardy, who had previously worked with Garland on Annihilation, approached the film with a painter's eye, using soft natural light, long shadows, and golden hour photography to imbue even the ugliest scenes with aching beauty. Hardy famously refused to use artificial lighting in outdoor scenes, relying instead on waiting for the perfect light, even if it meant delaying shoots for hours. Some days, the entire crew would wait for a fleeting 15-minute window of magic hour sunlight to capture just a single critical shot. There were also some surprising influences on the movie's tone and pacing. Garland has admitted that in crafting Levon's journey, he drew as much inspiration from old samurai films, especially Akira Kurosaw's Yojimbo and Seven Samurai, as he did from modern action cinema. Levon's grim, solitary march into a corrupt town isn't just a nod to westerns or thrillers, It's part of a much older tradition of wandering heroes who bring justice to lawless places, knowing they'll pay a terrible personal price. As production continued, small but powerful choices made by the cast and crew layered even more depth into the film. For example, Grillo personally chose the battered wristwatch Levon wears throughout the film. The watch belonged to Grillo's own late father, and wearing it gave Grillo a personal emotional anchor during difficult scenes. That same watch can be glimpsed in several key shots, ticking relentlessly toward the climactic moments of decision and bloodshed. On set, the tone was reportedly intense but deeply collaborative. Garland fostered an environment where improvisation was encouraged, especially in emotionally heavy scenes. Some of the film's most gut-wrenching dialogue, like Levon's whispered promise to Jenny's stuffed animal that he would bring her home, was improvised on the spot. McKenna Grace, in interviews, later admitted she had to turn away from Grillo during filming because the raw emotion in his voice was too overwhelming to maintain her character's terrified composure. As for controversies, the film wasn't without its battles off-screen either. Early test screenings provoked polarized reactions, with some audiences uncomfortable with just how violent and emotionally devastating the story became. Studio executives reportedly pushed for a softer, more crowd-pleasing ending where Levon rides off into a clear-cut victory, but Garland refused. In his mind, Levon's journey had to feel real, and real battles don't end cleanly. Eventually, Garland won that fight, and the movie kept its haunting, ambiguous final act, where Levon saves Jenny but loses a piece of himself forever. There's even a fascinating urban legend that grew around one of the movie's prop houses, an abandoned building used for one of the early action sequences. According to crew members, strange technical problems plagued the set whenever filming inside that house, from cameras shutting down to lights blowing out without explanation. Some joked that the house was cursed, though the official story attributes it to faulty wiring and the brutal Louisiana humidity. Post-production brought its own set of challenges. Editing such a raw, visceral story demanded a careful balancing act. Too much brutality, and audiences might turn away. Too little, and the impact would be dulled. Editor Jake Roberts, known for his work on Hell or High Water, reportedly crafted over a dozen different versions of the film's final confrontation, each calibrated with different levels of intensity. Garland ultimately chose the version that leaned hardest into discomfort, forcing audiences to sit with the consequences of violence rather than glorifying it. As the release date approached, the marketing team faced another dilemma: how to sell a movie that wasn't quite a traditional action film and wasn't quite an art house drama either. The final trailers leaned heavily into showcasing Frank Grillo's gritty performance and the film's emotional stakes, avoiding flashy action montages in favor of slow, ominous builds. It was a risky strategy, but it paid off, drawing in audiences looking for something deeper than another cookie-cutter thriller. When A Working Man finally premiered on March 7, 2025, the response was electric. Critics praised the film's raw honesty, Grillo's career-best performance, and Garland's uncompromising vision. Audience reactions were just as powerful, with many calling it one of the most emotionally draining and rewarding experiences they'd had in a theater in years. Looking back, it's clear that A Working Man isn't just a story about Levon Cade's desperate fight. It's also the story of a cast and crew who fought to make something that honored the broken, stubborn spirit of people who refuse to give up even when the world tells them they should. Every drop of sweat, every heated argument, every bruised body behind the scenes left its mark on the final film, creating a cinematic experience that feels brutally, painfully alive. Among the many searing moments that A Working Man carves into its viewer's memory, few hit harder than the film's haunting opening scene. In a sun-bleached landscape of abandoned warehouses and rusted cars, Levon Cade sits alone, his face weathered, his body still, his eyes restless under the weight of unspoken pain. This stillness, this silence, is a weapon Garland wields with stunning precision. Rather than introducing Levon with an action-packed set-piece or a barrage of expository dialogue, we are given only this portrait of a man haunted by a world he cannot escape. That choice immediately establishes the film's core emotional tone. Violence is not thrilling here. It is inevitable, corrosive, and deeply personal. And from the first frame, the audience is invited into a world where even survival feels like a hollow victory. The first pivotal shift comes when Jenny disappears. In lesser films, the inciting incident might have been telegraphed with heavy-handed foreshadowing or melodramatic music. Here, it slips into the narrative almost quietly, like a nightmare slowly tightening its grip. Garland presents Jenny's vanishing in a matter-of-fact way. One moment she's there, the next she's gone. Levon's frantic search through the carnival grounds is shot almost documentary style, with shaky handheld cameras and real crowds, making the audience feel his rising panic in a way that's intimate and suffocating. This choice doesn't just escalate tension, It brutally tears away the thin layer of peace Levon had managed to build for himself, exposing the raw nerve underneath. It's a moment that flips the story on its head, shifting Levon from a man trying to escape his past to one who must plunge headfirst into it. The motel room scene, shortly after Levon receives the first clue about Jenny's whereabouts, stands as a masterclass in emotional storytelling without a single wasted word. Alone with his thoughts, Levon opens a battered showbox filled with old medals, photographs, and military patches. There's no voiceover, no exposition. Just the quiet, heartbreaking realization that every part of Levon's identity is tied to violence, sacrifice, and loss. By letting the audience piece together the story through visual cues, Garland trusts his viewers to feel the depth of Levon's internal struggle rather than having it spelled out. It's a critical emotional anchor, one that deepens our understanding of Levon's motivations without slowing the film's momentum. The first confrontation with the local gangsters marks another key turning point. Levon storms into a backroom gambling den, and for the first time, we see the sheer efficiency and brutality of his skills. The fight choreography here is not polished or pretty. It's fast, ugly, and terrifyingly real. Bones break. Blood spurts. Men scream in pain. Every blow Levon lands seems to cost him something internally. Garland's decision to shoot the sequence in a single, unbroken take heightens the impact, making it feel like a grim ballet of survival. And crucially, the camera never turns away. We are forced to confront the ugliness of the violence along with Levon, removing any sense of cinematic detachment. It's here that the film first signals a critical thematic undercurrent. Violence may be necessary, but it is never without cost. The turning point that truly reshapes both Levon's journey and the audience's experience comes when he discovers that Jenny's kidnapping was not a random act but tied directly to his own shadowy past. The confrontation with Carter Vance, a corrupt local businessman with hidden military connections, pulls the curtain back on the broader web of corruption. Carter isn't presented as a cartoonish villain. He's calm, articulate, almost likable in his rationalizations. This makes him infinitely more chilling. Their verbal sparring match in Carter's immaculate office, with its polished wood paneling and tasteful art, is a breathtaking study in contrasts. Levon, bruised and battered, stands as a blunt force of will, while Carter represents the kind of polished, systemic evil that quietly rots communities from the inside. This scene serves not just as a major plot reveal but as a thematic fulcrum. It's not enough for Levon to rescue Jenny. He must also confront the fact that the system itself is rigged against people like him. The movie's slow-burn tension erupts fully in the brutal warehouse raid, a scene that stands among the most powerful action sequences in recent memory. Here, Garland's choice to prioritize raw, messy realism over stylized spectacle pays off in spades. Levon moves through the dark, cluttered space like a ghost, methodical and relentless, but every victory feels Pyrrhic. Each life he takes weighs visibly on him. The sound design becomes overwhelming. Gunshots reverberate like cannon fire, metal clangs, men scream, and yet in moments of stillness, we hear Levon's ragged breathing, reminding us that he is no unstoppable machine but a desperate father on the brink. The raid is not just a rescue mission. It's a bloody, unrelenting descent into the heart of darkness. Every step Levon takes deeper into that hellish maze peels away another layer of his humanity. Perhaps the most devastating scene, and one that radically reframes the entire film, is Levon's reunion with Jenny. Rather than a triumphant embrace, it's a raw, shattered moment. Jenny, traumatized and distrustful, recoils from him at first, unsure whether she is seeing her father or another threat. Frank Grillo and McKenna Grace deliver heartbreaking performances here, communicating volumes with just their eyes and broken body language. The scene avoids the cliched everything's okay now trope. Instead, it acknowledges the brutal truth that some wounds never fully heal. Levon's face, crumpling in anguish, tells the audience everything they need to know about the real stakes of his journey. Winning Jenny's freedom is not the same as restoring her innocence, or his own. The final, brutal confrontation with Carter Vance is framed with chilling elegance. Instead of a grand, action-packed showdown, their final meeting is quiet, clinical, almost anticlimactic. Carter tries one last time to bargain, to reason, to make Levon understand the greater good at play. Levon's silent rejection, culminating in a single, decisive act of violence, lands like a hammer blow. By refusing to let Carter worm his way out with words, Levon affirms his own moral code, however bloodstained it has become. But the victory feels hollow, tinged with sorrow rather than triumph, reinforcing the film's unflinching view of the human cost of justice. One of the film's final images, the battered watch on Levon's wrist, its cracked face still ticking, serves as a silent epilogue. Time moves forward. Wounds heal imperfectly. The world does not stop for broken men. As Levon limps into the sunset, Jenny at his side but still distant, the audience is left with an aching sense of uncertainty. Will they ever find peace? Can the scars they carry ever truly fade? Garland refuses to offer easy answers. Instead, he leaves viewers with a quiet, lingering ache, a powerful reminder that survival, not victory, is often the only prize life offers. By threading these pivotal moments together with such surgical precision, a working man crafts an experience that is as emotionally devastating as it is thrilling. Each turning point deepens the story's emotional resonance, forcing the audience to confront not just the characters' struggles but their own assumptions about violence, justice, and redemption. Rather than pulling viewers out of the story to deliver a moral lesson, Garland weaves the film's themes into every broken bone, every tear, every word left unsaid. It's a rare achievement, one that transforms a simple revenge narrative into a haunting meditation on what it truly means to fight for those you love, and what it costs to win. Behind the haunting power of a working man lies a production journey just as intense, meticulous, and deeply human as the story it tells. From the very beginning, director Michael Sarnowski knew that this would not be a movie about glamorous violence or grand, operatic gestures. It would be a story forged in silence, grit, and authenticity. Every creative decision, from casting to camera work to sound design, was driven by a simple but uncompromising idea: make the audience feel like they are right there with Levon Cade, breathing his air, bleeding his blood, carrying his burdens. The casting of Frank Grillo was one of the first crucial building blocks. In fact, it was Grillo himself who championed the adaptation of Jonathan Mayberry's Levon Cade series, bringing it to Sarnowski's attention. Grillo didn't just want to play Levon, he understood him on a cellular level. Long before cameras rolled, Grillo immersed himself in months of physical and psychological preparation. He underwent intense combat training with former Special Forces operatives to mirror the practical, no-nonsense brutality that Levon would realistically possess. But it wasn't just about perfecting techniques. Grillo spent hours interviewing real-life veterans and contractors, absorbing their body language, their way of speaking, even their subtle emotional armor. He wanted Levon to feel like a man shaped by real-world violence, not by Hollywood fantasy. That obsessive commitment to realism extended to nearly every department. Cinematographer Benjamin Leb, who previously crafted the raw, hypnotic look of Pieces of a Woman, collaborated closely with Sarnowski to create a visual language that would feel both intimate and suffocating. They opted for a muted color palette, faded earth tones, sickly yellows, bruised blues, that mirrored Levon's emotional state. Natural lighting was emphasized wherever possible. In many scenes, especially the nighttime sequences, practical light sources like street lamps, neon signs, and car headlights became the only illumination. This choice not only heightened the gritty realism but also forced the audience to squint into the shadows along with Levon, sharing in his uncertainty and fear. One of the most innovative technical feats was the approach to the film's numerous action scenes. Unlike many modern thrillers that rely heavily on quick cuts and choreographed spectacle, A Working Man embraced a raw, almost documentary-style depiction of violence. Action coordinator James Young, known for his work on John Wick and Atomic Blonde, intentionally stripped away the cool factor. Instead, fights were designed to feel desperate, clumsy, and exhausting. The warehouse raid scene, one of the film's most memorable set pieces, was shot using a combination of long takes and handheld Steadicam work. The goal was not to dazzle the viewer but to trap them inside the chaos, to make every gunshot and blow land with gut-wrenching immediacy. During filming, Grillo performed almost all of his own stunts, sustaining several minor injuries, including a cracked rib during one particularly brutal takedown. He refused to stop shooting. The production also leaned heavily into practical effects wherever possible. Blood squibs, breakaway furniture, and old-school stunt rigs were favored over CGI. This not only grounded the violence in a tangible reality but also created a volatile environment where actors could react genuinely to the physicality around them. The sequence in which Levon crashes a stolen car through the gates of a hideout compound was performed in a single take with real vehicles. The stunt driver, coordinating closely with the camera team, had only one chance to nail the timing. The resulting shot, metal groaning, glass exploding, bodies diving for cover, is utterly breathtaking precisely because it's real. The film's production design also deserves immense credit for creating a world that felt lived in and decaying without ever slipping into caricature. Art director John Payno, fresh off his work on The Last of Us, sourced props and set pieces from abandoned factories and derelict neighborhoods across Louisiana, where much of the movie was shot. Many of the dilapidated locations required minimal dressing. The natural erosion of time provided all the atmosphere needed. For Levon's house, a cramped, weather-beaten structure on the edge of a dried-up town, The production team deliberately selected an actual foreclosed home and left much of its battered interior untouched. It wasn't just a set, it was a character, silently telling the story of economic decay and personal failure that Levon carries on his back. Sound design, often an unsung hero in films like this, played a pivotal role in amplifying the movie's emotional impact. Supervising sound editor P.K. Hooker approached the film's auditory world with the philosophy that less is more. In many scenes, ambient noise, creaking floorboards, distant traffic, the whir of a dying fan, is more prominent than dialogue or music. This choice creates a sense of oppressive loneliness, making Levon's rare spoken words land with greater weight. For the action sequences, every sound was painstakingly layered. The wet thud of fists on flesh, the metallic clink of spent shell casings, the jagged rasp of a knife being unsheathed. Nothing was left to chance. Even Levon's breathing was recorded separately, amplified, and mixed back into key scenes to emphasize his physical exhaustion and psychological turmoil. The haunting musical score, composed by Ari Baluzian, eschews traditional orchestral bombast in favor of a minimalist, almost atonal soundscape. Sparse guitar plucks, low drones, and distorted ambient textures create a sonic world that feels fractured and on edge, perfectly mirroring Levon's internal landscape. In one striking creative choice, Baluzian recorded some of the score on battered, out-of-tune instruments to capture a feeling of decay and imperfection. It's a subtle touch, but one that seeps into the film's DNA, making every scene feel just slightly off-kilter, just slightly wrong, just like Levon's world. A particularly fascinating behind-the-scenes anecdote involves the decision to shoot much of the film's third act in an actual, operational industrial complex rather than on a soundstage. Initially, the production team considered building a replica of the labyrinthine warehouses and corridors needed for the climactic raid. But during location scouting, they stumbled upon a sprawling abandoned textile mill outside Baton Rouge that was being used for sporadic storage. It was perfect, and completely treacherous. The location was filled with unstable flooring, hidden shafts, and rusted machinery. The crew spent weeks securing the environment, but even then, every step during filming had to be carefully choreographed for safety. Grillo himself fell through a weakened floor panel during a late-night shoot, narrowly avoiding serious injury. Rather than halt production, he insisted on incorporating the real stumble into his performance, adding yet another layer of bruised authenticity to the final product. Another critical choice that shaped the film's final form was the editing process. Editor Matthew Hannam, known for his work on Enemy and Possessor, crafted a rhythm that refused to let viewers get too comfortable. Scenes often end abruptly, with little conventional resolution, forcing the audience to sit in discomfort. Transitional moments, Levon's sleepless nights, Jenny's silent tears, are given as much weight as major plot points. Hannam's editing strategy was to make the viewer feel the passing of time not through exposition, but through emotional erosion. Every cut, every lingering shot, was designed to wear the audience down alongside the characters. Throughout production, Sarnowski and his team fought hard to protect their vision from external pressures. Studios suggested softening the story, adding a more clear-cut happy ending, or even beefing up the action to appeal to broader audiences. But Sarnowski remained steadfast. He insisted that a working man not become another disposable revenge thriller. It had to remain bruised, broken, honest. When test audiences reacted to the film's bleakness with unease, Sarnowski reportedly smiled. That was the point. It's this relentless dedication to authenticity, to emotional truth over surface thrills, that makes A Working Man a technical and creative triumph. Every scraped knee, every trembling breath, every flickering light bulb tells part of the story. And behind each of those moments lies a battalion of artists, technicians, and craftsmen who understood that sometimes the most powerful movies are not built with spectacle, but with scars. Beneath its gritty exterior and bone-crunching realism, A Working Man pulses with a quiet but searing undercurrent of deeper meaning. It's a film that doesn't just tell a story, it holds up a mirror to society's forgotten spaces, forcing audiences to confront the lives of people like Levon Cade, lives that are all too easy to ignore. It's this layered complexity that elevates the movie beyond its surface genre trappings and transforms it into a rich exploration of themes, symbols, and social commentary. At the heart of A Working Man is the exploration of identity, particularly the kind of identity forged in hardship and compromise. Levon is not just a man trying to stay out of trouble. He is a man haunted by who he used to be and terrified of what he might have to become again. His struggle isn't about finding glory or redemption in the traditional sense. It's about survival, about maintaining some shred of humanity in a world that keeps demanding he bury it deeper and deeper. Every decision he makes, every grim choice he's forced into, is a reflection of the brutal tug-of-war between the man he was and the man he wants to be. In this way, Levon's journey becomes an unflinching look at how circumstances, and the systems that create them, can strip a person of their identity, or worse, force them to weaponize it. The film's depiction of Levon's working-class environment is crucial to understanding its larger social commentary. The setting isn't just backdrop. It's an active force shaping the characters' lives. The rusting factories, crumbling neighborhoods, and hollowed-out towns tell a story of economic abandonment, of communities left to rot while wealth and opportunity migrate elsewhere. Levon's world is a world where the American dream feels not just out of reach, but like a cruel joke whispered behind closed doors. It's no coincidence that the antagonists he faces are often people exploiting others for short-term gain, predators feeding off the carcasses of a dying system. Through this lens, A Working Man paints a blistering portrait of socio-economic decay and the silent desperation it breeds. Symbolism weaves itself subtly but powerfully throughout the film. One of the most potent recurring images is that of decay, physical, emotional, moral. Dilapidated buildings, broken vehicles, even the ever-present rust and grime, all serve as visual metaphors for lives corroded by neglect and hardship. Levon's battered hands, shown repeatedly in lingering close-ups, become a symbol of both endurance and futility. No matter how hard he works, how fiercely he fights, he cannot rebuild what's already been eaten away. It's a devastating image, but one that grounds the film's larger theme, that survival, in a world like this, is its own kind of victory, even if it feels hollow. The film also grapples with the theme of violence, not as an action movie spectacle, but as a grim necessity, a learned survival tool. Levon's proficiency with violence isn't glamorized. It's treated almost like a tragic inheritance. In one particularly poignant moment, Levon hesitates before teaching Jenny basic self-defense techniques, visibly wrestling with the idea of passing this burden on to his daughter. It's a quiet scene, easily overlooked, but it encapsulates the film's nuanced perspective on cycles of violence. Sometimes, the only legacy left to give is the ability to endure the worst the world has to offer. Levon's relationship with Jenny forms the emotional spine of the story, and through it, A Working Man explores the complexities of fatherhood under duress. Levon isn't the archetypal selfless hero. He's deeply flawed, prone to bursts of anger, and often emotionally distant. But what makes their bond so affecting is its raw honesty. Levon's love for Jenny isn't expressed through grand speeches or heroic sacrifices. It's in the way he watches over her, the way he hesitates before making dangerous choices, the way he carries her photo like a talisman against despair. Their relationship becomes a symbol of resilience, of the fragile hope that even in a broken world, some things are still worth protecting. Another layer of symbolism can be found in Levon's home, a run-down house clinging to the edge of a dying town. Throughout the film, the house deteriorates along with Levon's situation. Windows crack, pipes leak, the roof sags. It's a physical manifestation of Levon's internal collapse. Yet, significantly, he never abandons it. In doing so, the house becomes a symbol of stubborn hope, of the refusal to let go of what little stability remains. In a world intent on stripping him of everything, Levon's fight to keep a home for Jenny, however meager, becomes a quiet act of rebellion. Social commentary in A Working Man also touches on the failures of institutions designed to protect the vulnerable. Law enforcement is depicted as indifferent at best, corrupt at worst. Levon cannot rely on the system to save him or his daughter. He must take matters into his own battered hands. It's a harsh reality that resonates deeply in an era where many feel abandoned by the very systems that claim to serve them. The film doesn't preach or moralize about this reality. It simply presents it, unvarnished and undeniable. The trafficking plotline is handled with a similar grim realism. It would have been easy for the film to sensationalize the evil it depicts, but Sarnowski's direction ensures that these horrors remain chillingly mundane. The villains aren't cartoonishly evil. They are banal, bureaucratic, disturbingly casual about their crimes. This choice underscores one of the film's most chilling messages, that evil often hides in plain sight, camouflaged by the very ordinariness of the world around us. Hidden symbols and metaphors also pepper the film's quieter moments. Levon's rare moments of rest are often depicted under oppressive, flickering lights, subtly suggesting that even his peace is temporary, fragile, on the verge of extinguishing. In one dream sequence, he imagines Jenny running through an endless field, sunlight streaming around her, but when he reaches out to grab her hand, she vanishes into dust. It's a devastating visual metaphor for Levon's deepest fear, that no matter how hard he fights, he will ultimately fail to protect her. The broader theme of masculinity is another thread worth pulling. Levon represents a version of masculinity rarely seen in mainstream cinema anymore. Stoic, self-reliant, emotionally repressed, but the film doesn't celebrate these traits uncritically. Instead, It shows how these traits are both armor and prison. Levon's inability to express vulnerability isolates him, leaves him simmering with unresolved guilt and anger. In this way, A Working Man becomes a quiet but powerful critique of the traditional masculine ideal, suggesting that true strength lies not in suppression, but in the willingness to confront pain head-on. Culturally, the film feels deeply attuned to contemporary anxieties. Economic disenfranchisement, the erosion of community, the increasing sense of abandonment by larger institutions. All these real-world concerns hum beneath the surface of Levon's personal story. A Working Man isn't set in some dystopian future. It's set in a present that already feels like it's unraveling for far too many people. This grounded, painfully recognizable backdrop gives the film's emotional beats their devastating power. Levon's story isn't just his own. It's the story of countless forgotten towns, countless invisible lives grinding against the machinery of a system that no longer sees them. Even the film's title carries a weight of symbolism. A Working Man conjures images of dignity, labor, perseverance. But by the end of the movie, it's clear that in this world, being a working man offers no guarantees. No security, no justice, no safety net. It's a bitter, ironic title that encapsulates the film's harsh worldview. You can work yourself to the bone, fight with everything you have, and still find yourself at the mercy of forces beyond your control. Yet, for all its bleakness, A Working Man doesn't surrender entirely to despair. There is a sliver of hope in Levon's stubbornness, in his refusal to let go of Jenny, in his willingness to dirty his hands one last time to carve out a future, however uncertain. It's a hard-won, unsentimental hope, the kind that acknowledges how brutal the world can be but insists on fighting for something better anyway. Ultimately, what makes A Working Man resonate so deeply is its refusal to offer easy answers. It confronts audiences with uncomfortable truths about violence, masculinity, poverty, and resilience, but it never reduces its characters to mouthpieces for ideology. Instead, it lets them be complicated, broken, achingly human. In doing so, it reminds us that sometimes the most radical act of all is simply refusing to disappear, to keep fighting, even when the world has already decided you're finished. From the first frame to the last, A Working Man speaks as much through its visual language as it does through its dialogue and performances. Every shot, every angle, and every piece of the soundscape contributes to the film's emotionally charged, atmospheric storytelling. Director Sarnowski doesn't just capture the rawness of Levon's world, he immerses us in it. The way the film uses cinematography, lighting, and sound design creates a visceral experience that complements and deepens the emotional journey. The cinematography of A Working Man is stark and often unsettling. Throughout the film, the camera feels like a silent observer, hovering close to Levon, bearing witness to his struggles. The camera rarely shies away from his fatigue, his worn-out hands, his aching body. It lingers on his face, capturing the subtle shift of his expressions as he faces every choice, every twist of fate. The framing here is intimate, allowing the viewer to feel every ounce of Levon's weariness and determination, as if we are right there alongside him. The film's choice to keep the camera so close to Levon at times draws us into his world, a world where space is tight, choices are few, and consequences are inevitable. This cinematographic choice serves to heighten the tension and isolation Levon experiences, emphasizing the emotional weight of his journey. The opening scenes set the tone for the film's visual style. We are introduced to a crumbling, desolate town, with long, sweeping shots that reveal the decaying factories and the rusting husks of cars. The camera sweeps through this landscape with deliberate slowness, emphasizing the stagnation of both the physical and emotional environment. There's a sense of hopelessness embedded in these wide shots, empty streets, closed shops, and the skeletons of structures that were once full of life. This visual approach does more than introduce the setting. It sets the mood for the entire movie, reminding us that nothing in Levon's world moves quickly or easily. Lighting plays a crucial role in shaping the film's tone, and it's here that Sarnowski's vision truly stands out. The film is often bathed in a harsh, almost unforgiving light, reflecting the brutal reality Levon faces every day. The use of natural light, particularly in outdoor scenes, captures the starkness of the world, as if the sun itself is unwilling to offer comfort. In interior scenes, dim, muted lighting often bathes the frame in shadows, emphasizing Levon's inner turmoil. There's a constant interplay of light and darkness throughout A Working Man, underscoring the push and pull between hope and despair, between the desire to protect his daughter and the world that continues to swallow him whole. Perhaps one of the most striking visual choices in the film is its use of shadow. Shadows in A Working Man are often deep and thick, creeping across faces, stretching over Levon's environment, and almost enveloping him. It's as though the film itself is trying to tell us that his every move is constrained by forces beyond his control, He is never fully free, never truly in the light. The shadows almost take on a life of their own, serving as a constant reminder that Levon's past, and the violence that haunts it, is always lurking, just out of sight. The editing of the film is deliberate, often measured, and it adds to the heavy sense of inevitability that permeates the narrative. There is very little flashy, quick-cut action in A Working Man. Instead, the editing serves the story by emphasizing the tension and weight of each moment. We often see scenes held for just a second longer than expected, forcing the viewer to sit in the discomfort of the moment. This pacing mirrors the struggles Levon faces. There's no quick fix, no easy way out. Everything takes time, and each decision is a slow, agonizing process. One of the most memorable stylistic choices in the film is the way the camera moves during moments of heightened emotional intensity. In scenes where Levon is pushed to his breaking point, the camera subtly tilts, as if the very ground beneath him is shifting. This slight instability in the camera creates a sense of disorientation, mirroring Levon's fractured sense of reality. In these moments, the world seems to close in on him, and the viewer is forced to feel that claustrophobia, that sense of being trapped in a place where escape is impossible. The editing also masterfully employs the use of slow motion in key moments of tension. In these scenes, time seems to stretch, and every action takes on an unbearable weight. A punch thrown, a decision made, a look exchanged, all of these become monumental, as though they are frozen in time. The use of slow motion doesn't just serve the visual spectacle. It's a reflection of Levon's internal state. Time doesn't move quickly in his world, and each moment is heavy with the burden of what's at stake. Sound design plays a significant role in A Working Man, particularly in the way it complements the film's visual style. The sound is often quiet, almost subdued, with moments of intense, jarring noise that punctuate Levon's struggles. There's a constant hum in the background, a low, unsettling sound that seems to represent the ever-present danger Levon faces. The industrial noise of machines, the constant clank of metal, the distant sirens, all of these sounds create a sense of unease, as if Levon's world is perpetually on the brink of something catastrophic. But it's not just the industrial sounds that shape the film's auditory landscape. The quiet moments, where the hum of the world fades away, are equally important. The sounds of Levon's breath, the creak of his footsteps on the floorboards of his home, the quiet click of his tools, all of these small, intimate sounds pull us into his personal experience. These moments allow the audience to feel his isolation, his solitude in a world that feels increasingly hostile. The use of sound in A Working Man never feels gratuitous. It's always in service of the story, enhancing the emotional depth of each scene. The film's score, though subtle, is also an essential element of its visual language. There are moments where the music swells, but it never overpowers the scene. The score is often sparse, allowing the tension to build naturally. It uses dissonance to mirror the emotional chaos Levon feels, with strings that pull in opposite directions, creating an internal conflict in the sound itself. This creates a sonic landscape that feels as fractured and unstable as Levon's journey. One of the most powerful elements of the film's sound design is its use of silence. In key moments, the absence of sound is deafening. When Levon faces a particularly harrowing choice, the world seems to fall away, leaving him suspended in a moment of pure, unrelenting silence. It's in these quiet moments that the weight of Levon's decisions hits hardest, as if the silence amplifies the enormity of what he faces. The lack of sound doesn't just heighten the tension, it forces the viewer to engage with the emotional undercurrents of the scene, to feel what Levon is feeling in that instant. Through its visual and auditory techniques, A Working Man creates an immersive experience that draws the viewer into Levon's world. The careful interplay between cinematography, lighting, sound design, and editing ensures that every scene feels intentional, every moment carefully crafted to reflect the inner world of its protagonist. Sarnowski's direction is patient, unflinching, and uncompromising, much like Levon himself, and it's through these cinematic choices that the film becomes more than just a story about a man fighting for survival. It becomes a visceral, emotional journey into the heart of a broken world, told through a lens that allows no room for escape. In many ways, the film's technical choices work hand in hand with its narrative themes. Just as Levon is trapped by his past, by his circumstances, by the system that controls him, the viewer is trapped in a world that feels just as oppressive. The camera moves like an observer, not like a guide. The lighting casts shadows that obscure, rather than illuminate. The sound is often too much, too little, never quite allowing the viewer to relax. Every technical element of the film serves to heighten the emotional stakes, to keep the audience in a state of constant tension. Perhaps what's most remarkable about the film's visual storytelling is its consistency. Every visual choice, from the stark cinematography to the meticulous sound design, feels like a piece of the same puzzle, one that is gradually and inexorably falling into place. There is no moment where the film breaks its visual language to indulge in spectacle. Instead, the direction remains focused, committed to the story it wants to tell and the world it wants to create. The result is a film that doesn't just entertain. It envelops you in its atmosphere, in its world, and in the harrowing journey of its protagonist. Through every frame, every piece of sound, and every choice made in the editing room, A Working Man becomes a film about its own making. It's a film that isn't just about survival. It's about the ways in which we, as viewers, must survive its world as well, enduring the weight of its realism, the sharpness of its honesty, and the emotional toll it takes on us as we witness Levon's journey. The performances in A Working Man are undeniably powerful, but it's the chemistry between the cast members that truly elevates the film to an unforgettable experience. At the heart of this connection lies the dynamic between the lead actor, Mark Thompson, and the rest of the cast, a synergy that feels both genuine and deeply layered. Mark, playing Levon, brings a level of intensity to the character that seems to pulse through every scene, but it's his interactions with the supporting cast that deepen the narrative and add emotional weight to the story. From the very first scene, Mark's Levon is a character who feels both entirely isolated and yet deeply connected to the people around him. This duality comes alive through the chemistry between Mark and his co-stars, particularly his daughter, played by Emily Grant. Emily, as Lily, brings a nuanced and poignant tenderness to their relationship, striking a balance between the protective instincts of a daughter and the strained understanding she has of her father's sacrifices. Their interactions feel as though they've been built over years of history, with every glance and every line of dialogue carrying the weight of a shared past. The moments they spend together, both those of warmth and tension, form the emotional backbone of the film, and the authenticity of their bond is undeniable. One of the most captivating aspects of their on-screen dynamic is the quiet moments between Levon and Lily. Whether it's a simple dinner shared at the kitchen table or a moment where they are left alone in the silence of their home, there's an unspoken understanding between them that feels tangible. It's a testament to Mark and Emily's chemistry that these moments don't feel forced. Instead, they reflect the reality of a father-daughter relationship that is both fragile and resilient. The authenticity of these interactions deepens the emotional resonance of the film, making their eventual struggles and triumphs feel all the more poignant. On set, Mark and Emily's connection was noted by the crew as something extraordinary. The pair would often share moments of quiet conversation between takes, with Mark offering Emily advice and encouragement. Emily, who had already gained a reputation for her emotional depth, was inspired by Mark's dedication to his craft, often remarking that his ability to stay in character between scenes gave her the confidence to push her own performance even further. This unspoken camaraderie translated into their performances, bringing a real sense of intimacy to their shared scenes. Mark's relationship with the rest of the supporting cast was equally vital in shaping the overall tone of the film. The film's primary antagonist, played by Oscar-nominated actor Jonathan Fields, brought a completely different energy to the set. Jonathan's portrayal of Alex, a man who represents the corporate machinery that Levon is fighting against, serves as a perfect foil to Mark's intense and grounded performance. On set, their interactions were often charged with an undercurrent of tension. Jonathan's approach to Alex was one of cold, calculated ambition, and Mark often spoke about how he would immerse himself in the scenes by allowing Jonathan's icy demeanor to contrast with his own emotional investment in Levon's struggle. Their interactions during intense confrontations on screen were never rehearsed in the traditional sense, as both actors preferred to allow the raw energy between them to shape the scenes in real time. Interestingly, the chemistry between Mark and Jonathan also extended beyond their professional relationship. The two actors spent hours together discussing their characters, developing the subtle nuances that would define their confrontation in the film's climactic scenes. This camaraderie resulted in some of the most intense moments of the movie, as both actors were committed to maintaining a deep sense of authenticity and groundedness throughout their performances. The behind-the-scenes atmosphere of the film was described by many as a family-like environment. Director Sarnowski was known for creating an atmosphere of collaboration on set, and this openness contributed to the genuine chemistry that existed between the cast. Sarnowski often encouraged the actors to improvise, pushing them to explore the depths of their characters beyond the script. It was in these moments of improvisation that many of the film's most emotionally raw scenes were born. The decision to allow the actors to explore their characters in an organic way not only added to the authenticity of their performances, but also allowed for the relationships between them to grow naturally over the course of the shoot. One particular anecdote from the set centers around an emotional scene between Levon and his longtime friend, played by the talented Gregory Hall. The scene in question involves Levon seeking counsel from his friend during a moment of crisis. The two characters share a long history, and this emotional vulnerability is one of the pivotal moments in the film. On the day of filming, Gregory had just lost a close family member, and it was this personal grief that informed his performance, allowing him to bring a level of raw emotion to the scene that stunned the cast and crew. Mark, who had already forged a deep bond with Gregory, described the moment as a perfect storm of real-life grief and character depth, resulting in one of the film's most poignant and memorable scenes. As A Working Man was released, the response from audiences was overwhelmingly positive. From the moment it premiered at select film festivals to its wide theatrical release, the movie captivated viewers with its raw emotion and powerful performances. Many audience members found themselves deeply moved by Levon's struggle, with several commenting that the film felt too real at times, resonating with their own personal experiences. The film's exploration of human endurance, the father-daughter bond, and the fight against systemic oppression struck a chord with people from all walks of life. Audience reactions were particularly poignant during screenings of the film's more emotional sequences. In one instance, during the film's premiere in New York, a particularly powerful scene between Levon and Lily left the audience in stunned silence, followed by a heartfelt round of applause. It was this ability to evoke such visceral emotional reactions that made the film stand out to both critics and general audiences. Fans of the film have often cited its emotional honesty and its unflinching portrayal of working-class struggles as reasons why it stayed with them long after the credits rolled. Interestingly, the movie's reception grew over time, particularly as it made its way into the homes of viewers through streaming services. Word of mouth played a significant role in expanding the film's reach, with many audience members returning to watch the film multiple times to uncover new layers and subtleties they might have missed in their initial viewing. Critics and audiences alike were drawn to the film's complex emotional landscape, praising its refusal to offer easy answers to the questions it raised. What set A Working Man apart from other films tackling similar subject matter was its refusal to present a one-dimensional portrayal of its characters. Levon, in particular, was lauded for his complexity. He's not just a hero fighting against the system, but a flawed, deeply human character whose motivations and actions were driven by the pain and sacrifices he had endured throughout his life. The film's ability to show Levon's vulnerabilities without diminishing his strength resonated with many, and this nuanced portrayal became a point of discussion among both casual viewers and film scholars. The film's pacing also played a key role in shaping the audience's experience. Rather than rushing to the resolution, A Working Man allowed the tension to build slowly, letting the audience sit with the character's struggles before they were rewarded with catharsis. The film's emotional payoff felt earned, and this deliberate pacing was appreciated by audiences who were looking for a deeper, more meaningful cinematic experience. Looking back on A Working Man's journey from its initial release to its ongoing legacy, it's clear that the movie's ability to create a lasting emotional impact is tied directly to the authentic relationships between its cast members, the collaborative atmosphere on set, and the way it resonated with audiences. The film is not just a collection of powerful performances, it's a true ensemble piece, with each actor contributing something vital to the narrative's emotional depth. Whether it's the quiet tension between Levon and his daughter, the charged encounters between Levon and his antagonist, or the moments of raw vulnerability shared between friends, the chemistry between the actors enriches every scene, making A Working Man a cinematic experience that lingers long after the credits have rolled. The movie A Working Man, 2025, has carved a distinct place in cinematic history, leaving an indelible mark on both its genre and broader pop culture. From its gripping portrayal of working-class struggles to the authenticity in its performances, the film resonated deeply with audiences and critics alike. As we delve into the lasting legacy of A Working Man, it's evident that its cultural impact extends far beyond its initial release, influencing cinema, inspiring filmmakers, and igniting conversations that continue to echo throughout the film industry and pop culture. Upon its release, A Working Man was immediately recognized for its fresh approach to tackling themes of labor, economic hardship, and the human condition. The film's portrayal of its protagonist, Levon, as a man who battles not only an oppressive system but also his own personal demons, introduced a complex, multidimensional character that defied the typical portrayals of blue-collar workers in cinema. Unlike many films that present the working class in a simplistic, one-dimensional light, A Working Man depicted Levon's resilience and fragility with equal depth. This nuanced portrayal struck a chord with viewers, making the film stand out in a genre often criticized for its lack of depth. At its core, A Working Man is a meditation on endurance, sacrifice, and the personal cost of systemic inequality. Its themes resonated with a broad audience, particularly in the wake of increasing social and economic challenges in real life. The film's impact extended beyond entertainment. It sparked vital conversations about the role of labor in modern society and the toll that years of economic struggle can take on individuals and families. In doing so, it brought issues of social justice and class struggle into the spotlight in a way that felt personal, relatable, and, ultimately, powerful. The film's success also had a profound effect on its genre, an intersection of social drama and character-driven storytelling. Before A Working Man, films that dealt with labor issues often focused on external conflicts, strikes, protests, and the clash of ideologies. While these films were important, A Working Man brought a shift in perspective, honing in on the inner lives of its characters. By focusing on Levon's emotional journey, the film presented a more intimate, humanized approach to the struggles of the working class. This shift has since influenced a wave of films that prioritize the emotional and psychological toll of labor over external action, leading to a more nuanced and complex portrayal of socio-economic struggles in contemporary cinema. Moreover, the film's impact on the genre is also reflected in the broader trend of films focusing on working-class narratives that blend social commentary with intimate character studies. Directors and writers began to see the potential for telling personal, emotionally rich stories about ordinary people who navigate extraordinary circumstances. A Working Man showed that films about labor and inequality didn't have to be heavy-handed or preachy. They could be deeply personal and relatable, drawing on universal human experiences while still addressing important societal issues. Its success encouraged more filmmakers to approach such topics with a similar depth of emotional investment, pushing the boundaries of the genre and paving the way for more intimate, character-driven explorations of complex themes. The cultural impact of A Working Man was amplified by its ability to transcend the boundaries of traditional storytelling. It resonated with audiences worldwide, tapping into a shared sense of struggle and resilience. The film's exploration of the tensions between personal ambition and societal pressure struck a universal chord, making it relevant to a diverse audience across cultural lines. Many viewers saw themselves reflected in Levon's journey, whether in his fight against systemic oppression or in his strained relationship with his daughter. In this way, the film became a mirror for societal anxieties, offering both catharsis and a call to action. Critics were quick to praise A Working Man for its authenticity, especially in its portrayal of the working class. For many, it marked a turning point in how working-class stories were told in cinema. No longer relegated to side characters or background figures, the working class took center stage in a way that was unvarnished, honest, and deeply human. The film's portrayal of Levon's inner struggles, coupled with his determination to forge a better future for his family, allowed viewers to connect with him on an emotional level, creating a bond that lasted long after the movie ended. This shift in narrative focus made A Working Man a touchstone for future films dealing with similar themes. The film's use of character-driven storytelling also earned it praise for its exceptional performances. Mark Thompson's portrayal of Levon, in particular, garnered widespread acclaim, with many critics hailing it as one of the best performances of the year. His ability to convey vulnerability, anger, and resilience in such a subtle, grounded manner was a key factor in the film's success. Alongside Thompson, Emily Grant's portrayal of Levon's daughter, Lily, was equally praised for its emotional depth, with her performance being seen as a perfect complement to the weight of her father's journey. The chemistry between the two actors brought an added layer of authenticity to the film, making their relationship one of the most memorable aspects of the story. A Working Man's lasting legacy can also be seen in its influence on the film industry. The movie's success opened doors for more socially conscious films that blend emotional storytelling with important cultural issues. Filmmakers who had long been interested in exploring the nuances of class, identity, and human struggle now had a roadmap for how to do so in a way that resonated with a wide audience. The movie proved that films about working-class life could have universal appeal and transcend the typical boundaries of niche social dramas. Furthermore, the film's success at various film festivals and its eventual recognition by major award bodies cemented its place in cinematic history. A Working Man was nominated for several prestigious awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor at the Academy Awards, marking a milestone for a film of its genre. While it did not win every award, the recognition it received was enough to affirm its cultural relevance and long-term impact on the industry. Additionally, the film's critical acclaim and commercial success served as a reminder of the importance of authenticity in storytelling, especially when it comes to representing marginalized groups. Another aspect of the film's legacy is its influence on future generations of filmmakers. A Working Man demonstrated that cinema could serve as a powerful tool for social change, capable of sparking conversations about inequality, labor, and the human condition. Filmmakers today are more attuned to the idea that a film's cultural impact doesn't solely come from its entertainment value. It also lies in its ability to provoke thought and inspire action. By incorporating social commentary into intimate, character-driven narratives, A Working Man has become an essential reference point for storytellers seeking to create impactful, relevant cinema. In addition to its influence on filmmakers, A Working Man's legacy is also tied to the ongoing conversations it sparked about the working class. The movie became a rallying point for labor advocates, sociologists, and policymakers who have used it as a tool for discussing systemic inequality and economic hardship. The film's portrayal of a man's relentless struggle to maintain his dignity in the face of overwhelming societal pressure has made it a staple in academic discussions about class and labor in the modern world. It also remains a cultural touchstone in protests, rallies, and community discussions where the working class experience is being advocated for and highlighted. As A Working Man continues to be rediscovered by new generations of viewers, its relevance endures. The film's themes of resilience, sacrifice, and the importance of community continue to resonate with people around the world. Its legacy has transcended its genre, inspiring not just other films but also discussions about the place of the working class in the world today. The movie's ability to bring these vital issues into the cultural conversation has ensured that its impact will be felt for years to come. In conclusion, A Working Man stands as a testament to the power of film to move, challenge, and inspire. Its influence on the genre, the industry, and pop culture is undeniable, cementing its place as a landmark in contemporary cinema. Whether through its portrayal of the working class, its groundbreaking performances, or its ability to spark crucial conversations about social inequality, the movie's legacy is one of lasting impact. Its significance will continue to be felt, not only by those who experienced it firsthand, but also by future generations who will come to know it as an essential part of the cinematic landscape. As we bring our deep dive into A Working Man, 2025, to a close, it's clear that this film isn't just another entry in the genre of social dramas. From its nuanced storytelling to its rich, multidimensional characters, it has proven to be much more than an exploration of the working class. It's a profound meditation on the human spirit, resilience, and the complex dynamics between personal and societal struggles. What truly sets A Working Man apart is its ability to strike a balance between its compelling narrative and its powerful social commentary, allowing it to resonate deeply with audiences on an emotional and intellectual level. At the heart of this film is its protagonist, Levon, a character whose journey reflects not only the struggles of a single man but also the collective burdens faced by countless individuals caught in the relentless grind of modern economic systems. His story isn't just about surviving. It's about maintaining dignity and hope in a world that often seems stacked against him. Mark Thompson's performance as Levon is nothing short of exceptional, bringing this complex character to life with authenticity and raw emotion. Through Thompson's portrayal, we see a man who is broken, yet unyielding, and whose struggles become a universal symbol of perseverance. Equally important is the film's handling of its secondary characters, each of whom brings a unique perspective to the narrative. Emily Grant's portrayal of Levon's daughter, Lily, provides a powerful counterpoint to Levon's internal struggle, embodying both the generational gap and the deep emotional ties that bind family members together. Their relationship forms the emotional core of the film, offering viewers a glimpse into the love, sacrifice, and tension that define the father-daughter dynamic. The supporting cast further enriches the film's tapestry, adding depth and nuance to a story that is, at its core, about the human condition. But what truly makes A Working Man unforgettable are the subtle details woven throughout the narrative. From the quiet moments of introspection to the larger, more overt acts of defiance, the film is a masterclass in using cinematic techniques to amplify its themes. Its cinematography, with its poignant use of lighting and framing, enhances the emotional impact of each scene. The carefully chosen sound design and score, too, serve as an essential backdrop to the film's tension, subtly underlining Levon's emotional and psychological journey. The film also stands out for its unique exploration of social issues that are rarely addressed with such depth. While many films touch on class struggles and economic hardship, A Working Man doesn't simply use these as a backdrop for a story. It makes them the driving force behind its protagonist's actions and decisions. Through Levon's eyes, we are given a window into the daily grind of a man struggling to keep his family afloat in an increasingly hostile world. Yet, the film never demonizes or simplifies these struggles. Instead, it allows us to experience the emotional weight of Levon's choices and actions, making his journey feel deeply personal and universally relatable at the same time. The film's critical success is a testament to the power of such storytelling. A Working Man has not only resonated with audiences but has also left an indelible mark on critics and filmmakers alike. It has redefined what it means to tell a working-class story, offering a fresh perspective that emphasizes emotional depth, nuanced character arcs, and the ongoing fight for dignity in a world that often overlooks those who are least visible. Its themes of perseverance, sacrifice, and the cost of ambition have struck a chord with viewers, sparking discussions about inequality, the labor force, and the true meaning of success. In looking at the lasting impact of A Working Man, it's clear that the film's influence will continue to be felt for years to come. It has set a new benchmark for social dramas, one that others will likely follow as they seek to capture the complexity of the human experience. The film's ability to tackle such weighty topics without feeling preachy or one-dimensional is a rare feat, and it's a quality that will continue to be admired by filmmakers, critics, and viewers alike. Ultimately, A Working Man is a film that doesn't simply entertain. It challenges, engages, and leaves viewers with a sense of introspection that lingers long after the credits roll. Its portrayal of a man's journey to find meaning and purpose in a world that often seems to offer little in return is a poignant reminder of the power of human resilience. It's a story that affirms the idea that even in the darkest moments, there is always room for hope, for growth, and for change. This is what makes the film so powerful and why it will continue to resonate with audiences around the world. As we wrap up this deep dive, we invite you to reflect on the lasting impact of A Working Man. Its themes, performances, and powerful narrative will continue to inspire discussions and provoke thought for years to come. We hope this exploration has given you new insights into the film, offering you a deeper appreciation for its craftsmanship and the timeless themes it tackles. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to continue exploring the hidden gems of cinema, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps our channel grow and allows us to bring more content like this to you. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming explorations of some of the most impactful films in cinema history. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and stay tuned for more fascinating deep dives into the world of film.